Hello and welcome back to the channel. On today's tutorial, I'm going to be sharing with you how to draft and sew a conical corset with a gong sleeve and also a stylish keyhole neckline. So if this is something you like, please don't forget to join us to the end of this video. And if it's your first time viewing my channel, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. So let's dive right into today's video.
So first we are going to start with the yoke of the pattern, and this is what I have. I cut this out from the pattern.
So if you haven't seen the drafting tutorial, please is up on the channel so that you can understand what we are doing. So now I'm going to leave the neckline first and we are going to work on the lower part. So now you're going to stitch with 1/2 inch.
So while stitching, you're going to leave this part that is pointing towards the arrow open. You're not going to stitch on those parts. You're going to go ahead and stitch on the other sides of the yoke. After stitching, just like I said, this is what you have. As you can see, I left those parts open. Now I'm going to be turning it out. So that is the part that will be forming the little keyhole on this dress, as you can see. So after bringing it out, I'm going to go ahead to iron it to make it more relaxed. And now to work on the upper part of the yoke, I'm just going to go ahead to flip this way, and I'm going to stitch on the neckline with 1/2 inch, and I'm going to notch iron out. And this is the body of the corset, and I cut this out. So now we are going to be ironing wording to the lower part of this corset. So before we iron that on it, we are going to use this pattern to cut it out. So I'll place my French cuff and I'll cut out. So I'll use these pieces to cut out the side. So if you don't want to iron a wording to this, please go ahead and use your boning to also create this on your structure. But most times using a boning is more on a more conical corset, a more structural conical corset. So this has like a little peplum effect, so that's why I'm using a light wording. So now I'll be cutting out 2 light wording for each part, so making it 4 pieces. So now after cutting it out, you want to go ahead and iron. Please trim out the excess you have at the lower part, which I'm also going to trim out later because it's going to make the lower part bulky. So now I'll go ahead and iron this on my corset. So to iron, you're going to place like this and iron, and on the other side also you're going to iron. So now if you want to still use a single light wording, it is still okay, but you also attach a boning on it. But for mine, I cut out 2 pieces. But once you're cutting out 2 pieces on the waist this way, you're going to make sure that you're going to trim a lot of excess when you're joining. If not, your corset will be very bulky. So after I'm done ironing, and this is what I have on this part. So on the waistline of the back also, you're going to also repeat the same process. Now I'm going to place and I will cut out. So I'll also go ahead to use this to iron on the back of the corset. So now on the front, we're going to go ahead and create boning channels on this corset, and I'm going to go ahead and mark at this point. So I'm just going to be creating 2 on each side and 1 at the center, but from what we have like 3 at the side and 1 at the center. So you can decide to do what is on the thumbnail, or you can just create a design of your own. So now I'll be creating my boning channels on it. So now I'm going to be taking my fabric that I've cut out. This is a doll face. I'll place stitch and flip on the other side. So the size of your boning depends on the size of your boning channel depends on the size of your boning. So I'm going to use this to create 5 boning channels in front. So sorry, my video is a little too fast because the video is too lengthy and I'm trying to cut it short. So after creating the boning channels, this is what I have on. So let's go ahead and work on the cup. I'm going to be using a bra foam. You can use your wording or ready-made cup. So I'll go ahead and I'll place my fabric on it and I'll go ahead to iron. But before I go ahead to iron, I'm going to go ahead to explain to you what I'm going to do.
Now, assuming you ironed it, you're going to place and stitch with 1/2 inch all the way this way. And I've gone ahead to iron out my cup. So the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead and I will attach this cup to the body of my corset. But before I do that, I'm going to trim out the excess I have on this part to make it less bulky, and I will repeat the same process on the other part of my cup. So now I'll go ahead to bring this body of my corset and I'll be placing the cup. So just like I said, sorry that the video is too fast. The video is actually very long, so I'm trying to shorten it a bit. So now I'll notch the center there and I'll go ahead to pin my cup round. So pinning your cup makes it more easier for you to work with, especially if you're making use of an already made cup. So if the body of your corset, the space you have, your cup is actually bigger than it, go ahead to notch the body of your corset to match your cup size. So I'm just going to go ahead to pin it, and after I'm done pinning it, this is what I have. So I'll go over to the sewing machine and I will be stitching it. So I will be using this same process for the other side of the cup also. So this is it, and I'll go over to stitch it with 1/2 inch all the way around and repeat this on the other cup. So now this is what I have, and as you can see, I pinned the yoke just to show you how it is looking like. So now I'm going to be placing this way and I'm going to pin it all the way down. So I will pin it. Make sure that you measure this out. Remember when we were cutting out the yoke? So that is why it is important to watch the drafting out video to know where to place your yoke on the cup or on the upper part of your corset. So this is what I have, and I will stitch it with 1/2 inch. And remember to iron your cup with a tailor's ham. If you don't have that, I have a video on how to make that. So after I'm done stitching up my yoke, this is the lining part also, and I've also gone ahead to join it just like I joined the main fabric of the dress. So on this part, we are going to go ahead to iron a PEPLUM stay on it. So a PEPLUM stay is different from a gum stay. It's actually very thicker. So you can use a cloth gum or a collar gum, something that is very thick. So now I'll trace out the shape that I have there. You want to iron this on your lining, or you're going to go ahead to you're going to go ahead to sew boning on this. So I'll go ahead to cut this out following the shape that you have on the waistline. So I'm going to also trim this out and I'll be ironing on the other side also. So this is it. I'm done ironing and this is what I have. So I'm also going to just add boning to it and also repeat the same at the back of the dress. So now after this, you're going to bring the front part of your dress this way. You want to make sure that what you have on the dress is matching what you have on the lining, and if you have any excess as such, go ahead and trim it off. After you make sure that the body is matching the lining, now we are going to place our yoke, the main fabric and the back together. The back, which is the lining part of this dress. So I'm just going to go ahead to pin. It's very important to pin. With that way, it's easier for you to sew, and make sure that when you're pinning your yoke, remember that this is a keyhole neckline. We have a little keyhole neckline. You don't pin in those parts. So at first, while I was pinning, I mistakenly pinned in that part, so I had to go ahead to take it out and repin again. So I'm going to pin. After pinning, you're going to be stitching with 1/2 inch at the yoke first. So now I'm done pinning. I'll go ahead to stitch up that part first before stitching up the body of the corset. So after I'm done sewing, this is what I have, and I'm going to be ironing this with my tailor's ham. So if you don't have a tailor's ham, I have a video on how to do that. how to make a tailor's hem, you can go ahead and check it out on my channel. So this is the keyhole neckline I was talking about. Go ahead to iron out your corset so that it's going to be looking nicer and your cup will come out very well. So after ironing, this is what I have, and now I'll be placing and stitching boning on these parts. So you can decide not to use a boning actually if you use a wadding and a PEPLUM stay. And as you can see, my PEPLUM stay is actually removing, so I'll go ahead to stitch it back, but I'm going to sew up boning here just to make that point firm. But if you don't want to add boning at that point, because this is more like a conical PEPLUM corset, so you can just go ahead to leave that. So now I'm going to go ahead to place my corset together and we're going to stitch up the body. So I'm going to stitch up the side, the lower part, and I'll stitch here also. So remember that you're going to pin. I'm just showing an illustration. So before I go ahead to also sew, I'm going to re-iron because the PEPLUM stay is a little difficult to stick on the lining. So I'll go ahead and leave a little space which I'll be turning this dress from. So before doing that, I'll go ahead and I will pass my boning through the boning channels. So now the size of your boning channels determines the size of the boning that you're going to be using for the dress. So I'm just going to go ahead and pass through all my boning on my dress. So I'm using a sewable boning for this dress. You can also go ahead and use a plastic boning. Sorry, my voice is a little cracky on this tutorial, so I'll just go ahead and pass boning throughout the boning channels of this corset, and after passing that, we'll go ahead to stitch up the sides. So after I'm done passing all the boning, now I'm going to go ahead to stitch my dress. So after I'm done stitching, this is what I have. Now I have this opening and I'm going to turn. So I forgot to tell you, before you go ahead to turn, go ahead and notch and trim out the excess you have by the side. So while I was doing that, I actually forgot to trim out my own, as you can see in the video, but I had to go ahead to turn back to the wrong side and trim out the excess I have. If not, your corset is not going to turn out very well and it's not going to be relaxed, and when you're sewing, joining the back to the front, your corset is going to be very bulky at the side. So now I'm going to go ahead to fold in the allowance ½ inch on the side, and I will go ahead to stitch. So with this, we'll be stopping this tutorial on this part and we'll continue in our next video to make this video a little shorter. And if you have any question regarding this tutorial, please leave your question at the comment section, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. So join us in the remaining part where we'll be sewing the back, the sleeve of the dress, and also how to join the dress and also the back of the dress. So if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for always supporting our channel, and see you in our next video.